Hi, I'm Elisa from the City of Port Adelaide Enfield's Living Environment team. We are working together to increase our city's tree canopy. We're doing this to help enhance biodiversity and help cool our city.
All right, step one is to soak the tree that you've got before you're putting it in the ground. What we can do is add a liquid fertiliser to the water, and it'll help encourage root activity once the tree's in the ground. So just a little splash like this, and then just give your tree a good soak in the pot. So now we need to dig our hole. So what we want to do is create a hole that is the depth of the pot, but twice as wide. And we want to shaper the sides down, so we create like a wok shape. That'll give the surface roots a bit of room to grow out from the hole. So it's very important not to just dig the hole straight down and drop the tree in, because the roots will struggle to get out into the surrounding soil. So we'll work out our depth first. So the best idea is to dig a hole the size of the pot, and then we'll chisel away at the sides. So we've dug our hole. This soil was quite compact, so we've had to use a crowbar to break it up, and then we're shoveling it out as we go. So we've got down to what appears to be the right level. What we'll do now is just carefully place the tree in there and see if we've got enough depth. So as you can see, the level of the soil here is below the natural ground level, which is where we want it, because we want to be able to put a bit of soft soil underneath it to lift it up. And so that's a good size. Looks like a wok. This soil is quite hard down the bottom here, and it's a lot of clay in this soil. So what I will do quickly first is get the crowbar and just break it up a little bit more on the bottom there, just to aid with drainage and give the tree a better chance of establishing itself. And so there's our hole. All right, I think that looks good. So what we're going to do now is get the tree out of the pot. So what we want to do is lay the tree down carefully, watching the branches that are coming off it. Just give the pot a little bit of a push, and theoretically it'll slide out. And there we go. This tree has a lot. It's been in the pot for a while. It's not pot bound by any stretch of the imagination, but what we want to do is just loosen up a little bit of this. We're now going to get that back into the hole. Our level's looking good. And now it's ready to start backfilling the hole. Take a little bit more up on the sides there. So what we're going to do is mix a bit of compost into the soil. I mean, with heavy clay soils like this, you can add a bit of gypsum, which you can get from Bunnings or what have you. That'll help break up that clay soil. But digging this big hole has given this tree a good chance to get established. And tree roots will push through clay, and they will travel through the surface. It's just about getting them established in the first couple of years. So we'll get a bit of this, mix it with a bit of our soil, and just slowly backfill it. It doesn't matter so much with this tree, but it's always worth just having a look at the structure of your tree and seeing how you want it to sit. Some trees can be flat-sided from growing in nurseries. You might want to turn it round to get a better angle, but this one here, it's quite upright, so we'll leave it how it is. So we'll get that soil back in there, trying to keep out all the big lumps of clay. So we want to compact the soil to a point. We don't want to ramming it to keep the tree upright, we've got to keep this soil as friable as possible. So, you know, a little tap down is okay, but that's about as far as you need to go. Quite porous. All right, so with the leftover soil, there's lots of air holes in it. We can just, which is good for the tree as well, create a little bit of a moisture to get into the roots. A wall, I suppose, around the side of it, and just helps the water to drain in there. So the next step is to water your tree in thoroughly. We've just got a watering can here, but at home, get a hose. Obviously, if you add fertiliser, is a good idea. So just give it a good soaking, and you should see where you've dug the hole that the water is just draining away fairly quickly. Let it soak in a bit, and then just keep going. All right, so the next step is to mulch and use this hessian sack to prepare the surface. So we've created this little well, which has worked quite well. It's kept the water in there. So now you want to take your hessian sack, tip the mulch out to the side. Now we want to get our hessian sack with our pair of scissors and cut it open into a square. Now it doesn't have to be neat, obviously just be careful. So cut it down here, the side without the seam, obviously makes it a bit easier. And we want to cut it along the bottom to open it right out. So now we've got a large square. So what we need to do is get this around the tree. Now you can have it at this size. It will most probably add a bit of benefit if we fold it in like this. So then you've got a double layer. It's a bit smaller, but it'll give you more, it'll keep the moisture in more, and it'll suppress the weeds around the tree a bit more. So now what we want to do basically is just cut a line into the centre where our tree is, maybe create a little bit of a space for it. Not super important, the hessian's not going to create any trunk rot. Flip it over and put it back around our tree. Folding the sides in, like so. So obviously this will help suppress the weeds and retain the moisture. It's not going to last forever, but it'll definitely help establishing the tree, especially if you put it in a lawn area and there's lots of weeds or grass underneath. This will help suppress those weeds, at least for the first year or so, which will give your tree a good chance to establish. And then basically it's a matter of putting our mulch on. Straight on top of the hessian, creating another little bit of a well to help the moisture get in there. So the next step is to assess whether you need a stake. So in this situation, because it's quite open and it's most probably going to get hit by winds, we will come back through and put a stake in. We'll usually put a stake on the windward side, which is west where most of the winds come from, just to hold this tree up for the first couple of years. They will most probably come with a bamboo stake. This one has. You can leave these bamboo stakes in, maybe just give it a little push down if you're a bit worried about it. They've got these little rubber ties on them. You most probably want to take a couple of them off. So the idea is that we want to keep the tree up, right, but we also want it to move in the wind, or else it'll never get used to the wind and then you'll have problems later on. So how we've dug the hole, put the soil back around it, the weight of the pot, this tree would most probably be okay without a stake, but I will leave this bamboo one in here for now. All right, so now we've got our tree in the ground. As you can see, it's really important to make sure that your tree has enough room to grow, so its crown or its canopy has got space, and we've also allowed enough room for the roots to grow into this mulch garden bed area. It's really important to make sure these trees have the space. As we can see with these ones that have been planted by the council before, they're far enough away from the mulch soft fall on the playground. They're nicely spaced. We can get mowers around them, and they've got plenty of space to grow.
So thank you for working with us to help green our city.